My name is Morinola Sodeke. I am a client consultant with California Cryobank. Today's topic is donor egg IVF and what to know. Before we get started, I'd like to share that I'm happy to be hosting this webinar with our Executive Vice President, Heidi Hayes.
Thank you.
So before we get started, I'd like to address some housekeeping items. Please feel free to submit your questions during the presentation. We will answer all questions at the end of the discussion. Also note that your privacy is very important to us, so all questions will remain anonymous. So what are the objectives of today's webinar? We have 5 goals that we would like to achieve today. We'll start by saying that we'd like to come to terms with the diagnosis, talk about facing the common fears, take the first steps, which is to find a donor, map out the game plan, which refers to financing and timing, and then more importantly, looking towards the future.
So I'm excited to get us started. And my name is Heidi Hayes. And if you're anything like me, I constantly ask myself, why me? Why was I the person that needed to utilize a donor egg? So here you see a picture of my family. My family was built, after 10 years of experiencing infertility and a lot of loss along the way. My family was built through both adoption and donor egg treatment. So I feel uniquely qualified to talk to you today a little bit about my journey, which might be similar to your journey, and why I ended up utilizing donor egg. So let me get us started just by talking about the reasons people choose donor egg. First of all, decreased ovarian function is the #1 reason. Most of these are women that are over the age of 35 and up to about age 50, and they're having a hard time conceiving. Premature ovarian failure often can strike a woman as early as her early 20s, and we work with many clients with this condition. Some individuals have genetic abnormalities and they want to try to utilize a donor egg in order to minimize those, or they've failed other treatment and have unexplained infertility. And then we have our LGBTQ community, who we love working with, and they utilize donor eggs in order to achieve being parent. So let's focus first on female infertility. We know for a fact that women's fertility begins to decline around age 34. It's pretty stable up until that point, but around that point, we call it a cliff. It begins to really decrease. And by the time a woman is in her 40s, her likelihood of having a baby naturally is less than 5%. At the same time, you'll see that her opportunity for miscarriage increases. As she gets older, different issues within the chromosomes begin to develop, and she is more likely to have a loss. And then this next slide will show you what that opportunity truly is. So by the time she is 45, her likelihood of having a baby with a problem is going to be 1 in 21, whereas when she was in her 30s or even in her 20s, it was significantly lower at 1 in 385. So I love Marsha Cross, and I truly applaud her. She is one of the few stars that has come out and said she utilized a donor. And I love what she said. When a woman gets older, they get donor eggs, which doesn't make the baby any less beautiful or perfect. And it's so true. You will love a baby even if you utilize donor egg. So let's talk about some of the common fears. If you're anything like me, I had many fears going into this process. In fact, it took me months for my husband and I to make the decision to move forward. First of all, if you're utilizing IVF, you think, it's a gamble. Maybe the next cycle is going to be the cycle that's going to get me pregnant. But remember, every cycle that you tackle comes at an emotional cost as well as a financial cost. And there does become a point in which it's really almost impossible to pull yourself out of bed after you hear those words once again, that it's negative pregnancy. So I worried a little bit that I wasn't able to carry a baby. I suffered multiple miscarriages, and I thought it had to be because of my uterus, and it certainly wasn't because of any other part of me, when in fact the problem really was my eggs, and I was able to carry a pregnancy just fine. Sometimes you worry about, will other people know if you utilized a donor? Or are you less of a woman? Should you adopt, or should you pursue this donor egg treatment? We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Will the treatment work? We're going to cover some success rates to show you that it does. How long will the process take? Warren's going to discuss that. Is it hard to select a donor? Will I love my baby? And ultimately, can I afford it? So let's work through a few of these fears as we continue on. So I'm going to talk about adoption and egg donation first. I've actually done both. They're pretty similar in cost between adoption and egg donation. But the one thing with adoption is there are a lot of hidden costs, such as your home study, your fingerprints, legal fees, heading down to the government office in order to get seals of approval. Everything is costly in the process. Adoption is not a bulletproof process. Approximately 10 to 20% of adoptions will fail. Typically, this is because the birth mother has changed her mind. The wait time between adoption and egg donation is very different. With adoption, it can take a year, 2 years to finalize that adoption. And you wait the entire time to find out if it will actually become final. Whereas with donor egg, you know once you complete that 2-week wait, either you're pregnant or you're not. And then I loved with egg donation the ability to control the process. When I went through adoption with my son, I had to wait to be chosen. I had to wait for a birth mom to select us to provide her child to. But with donor egg, I had the opportunity to look at the donors, make the selection, and really feel for the first time in my journey, I was in control. Oftentimes people say, yeah, but you're not the biological mom. And I say, but I am. When I look at my adoption, the birth mother is the biological mom. But when I look at donor egg treatment, I'm the biological mom. The genetic donor gave me one special cell. I kind of think of her as the genetic mom. But that one special cell, when combined with my husband's sperm, allowed me to weave the baby together. And so I made the baby. I am the biological mother. And I feel really excited and in utero. Whereas with the adoption process, yes, I bonded with my child. I love him beyond imagination. But it did take longer. It took well over a year to feel that same connection as I felt when I gave birth. So will the treatment work? We've performed now over 5,000 transfers, and on here you'll see 4,870 transfers, with a pregnancy rate this year of 67%. A clinical pregnancy rate of 58%, and 50% of the individuals that have done a transfer have gone on to have a live birth. So it is successful. It will work for you. So let me pass it to Maureen, who's going to talk a little bit about how to find a donor.
Thank you so much, Heidi, for sharing your personal experience with us. So the question that we often get is, how hard is it to find a donor? In actual fact, it's very easy to find a donor. The first step will be there are actually 4 steps that needs to be taken in order to go through the process. But the first step will be to visit our website, cryobankeggs.com. Once you get to that website, you'll be able to see a large, diverse pool of donors. We currently have over 300 donors in our database. The eggs have already been retrieved and cryopreserved, so the donors are ready to be selected. So you wonder, how is the donor screened? What would I know? There's a lot of information that you'll be able to learn about the donors that we have on our website. When you visit cryobankeggs.com, and you've registered and enrolled, you'll have access to the donor's full information. The information that you'll be able to learn or read or learn is the personal health of the donor, their family and medical history. You'll also be able to see the genetic result testing summary that the donor has gone through. You also learn a little bit more about the education of the donor, as well as any infectious diseases or drug screening that they've gone through. So what are the tips for selecting a donor? Well, the very first step will be to visit the website and make sure that you are registered and enrolled. There is no cost to do that. Once you are on the site, we do recommend that you take your time. A lot of times when you visit the site and you view the donors, you may not immediately see someone that you take to or you like. But when you spend more time viewing the donor's information, then you start to build a connection. We also suggest that you expect to match with the most important issues. What criteria are important to you? If you have non-negotiables, then you're expected to have that and list that as part of the type of donors that you're looking for. We also suggest that you be willing to compromise. There will be some criteria that you are will be willing to forgo in order for you to find that great donor. Look for intellectual potential. Bear in mind that a lot of our donors donated when they were in their 20s. So at that age, they were still kind of building or pursuing their academic and professional goals. So, view the essay and the skill set to see what potentials these donors have when it comes to their intellect. Bear in mind that none of us are perfect. Every one of us have imperfections. So, as long as we remember that, then the journey to find and match with a good donor will become easy. And lastly, matching blood types is not medically necessary and does not impact the success rate of using donor eggs. So our clients want to know what motivates donors to donate their eggs. There are a number of reasons why a person would choose to donate their eggs. A lot of times these donors already know someone who is going through infertility or has gone through it, or they have someone in their family that's currently going through that experience. Sometimes it's due to their own personal convictions. They want a way to be able to give back, so they feel that donating eggs is a good way to give back to that family. Financial gain, yes, may be a reason why some donors would want to donate their eggs, and we try to screen and monitor the donors, and if that is primarily the reason why a donor is interested in donating their eggs, then going through our rigorous protocol would certainly weed such people out of the program.
So I want to talk a little bit about why frozen donor eggs. When I went through treatment, only fresh was available. Frozen eggs weren't an option. My twins are actually 8 years old this year. So but there are many advantages to utilizing frozen donor eggs. First of all, you know exactly what you're going to get. So recipients on our website can choose a donor with anywhere between 5 and 8 mature eggs. Occasionally you'll see one with 9. But when looking at the donor, exactly how many eggs are available for her. I always tell people, if you're between 2 donors and you like them equally, and one donor has 8 and one donor has 6, choose the donor with 8. So there's no need at this point with frozen eggs to synchronize with the donor. So you can pretty much determine when you want to have your transfer. We have more than 300 donors on the website right now. There's a great selection. Nearly everyone should be able to find a donor on the website. You have a great opportunity to be able to have a biological sibling in the process. And unlike a fresh cycle, we actually give you a guarantee. We guarantee a blastocyst available for transfer. One of the disadvantages I often hear is that you do get a limited number of eggs. You could choose to do a 1-to-1, meaning you with one donor, cycle option fresh, and you'll get all the eggs. But if you can read on our website, there are many stories in which the donor never makes it to retrieval, and you could find yourself in a position in which you don't have any eggs. The other great thing about frozen donor eggs is that the cost to cycle that donor is shared amongst multiple individuals. So when a donor cycles, we take the eggs, we break them into a couple different egg lots in order to share those costs, such as the donor's medication, her IVF process, her compensation. That lowers the cost of treatment altogether. Another disadvantage I sometimes hear is you're only starting with 5 to 8 mature eggs. What's the opportunity for additional cryopreserved embryos? And you can think of it as a disadvantage, but really the technology has moved so much that we're currently at a 64% chance of having additional embryos available for transfer after the initial transfer. So, Maureen, why don't you tell us a little bit about how to get started?
Well, thank you very much. So the most frequent question we tend to be asked is, how long does this entire process take? Is this a long process? Would it take us months and months before we can find a donor? The actual fact is there are 4 easy steps to help complete this process. The first step, of course, is for our clients to visit our website, cryobankeggs.com, and register and enroll. Once you are registered and have enrolled, you would have completed the first step. The second step would involve the client choosing a donor from the website. Once that's been done, then you're 50% complete within the process. The next step would involve receiving payment and contract once a donor has been selected, and that completes the third process. And the most exciting step is when the eggs have been shipped and they have been delivered to the fertility clinic of our clients. That completes the whole process. So let me talk to you a little bit about 2 of our financial plans. We'll start with the egg lot only plan. This is a plan where you're able to secure an egg lot of 6 to 8 mature eggs. The cost to secure this egg lot is $14,500, and with this plan comes a guarantee of at least 1 blastocyst embryo. Our other plan, the second plan, single cycle plan, is a one-time treatment attempt, in which the cost of the eggs and the treatment is bundled into one affordable pricing. The treatment cost has been significantly reduced in order to be able to have a low-cost pricing. This plan also comes with a guarantee of at least 1 blastocyst embryo with the plan.
So I wanted to talk to you about our most popular plan. It's the 100% assured refund plan. And I love this plan. I did something similar when I went through IVF, and had I not chosen this process, I would have never had the financial opportunity to do my adoption. You go with it. And if you are unsuccessful in the process, you get 100% of your money back. You don't have to do the plan all the way through. If at any point you decide to leave on your own accord, you actually get 80% of your money back. It does require an application, but 96% of the individuals who apply will be accepted into the plan. And 92% of those who stay in the plan will move on and actually bring a baby home from the hospital. You may have noticed that we haven't given you the price of this plan, nor have we given you the price of the single cycle plan. And the reason why is because every fertility practice charges something different for their treatment. What we do is we've negotiated lower rates for treatment And we've lowered the cost of the eggs themselves in order to bundle them together into these package plans. The single cycle plan is very economical, as is the Assured Refund plan. The Assured Refund plan is about the cost of 2 single cycle plans, but you get the 100% money back guarantee. So either you come home with your baby and your dreams are fulfilled, or you get your money back so you can pursue other avenues to become a parent. So I like to say that we all have our own journey. I know I've had mine and you are on yours. But what binds us together is that deep desire to become a parent. And I know that if we persevere and if you push hard, you will make your dreams come true. And this is a picture of my family because I persevered through everything, through 10 years, 1 failed adoption, multiple miscarriages, and donor egg made me a mom of multiple children. And they are the delight of my life, and I'm so glad that I went in this direction. So I encourage you to take the next step.
Yes, and what does that entail? Just give us a call today on 855-EGG-BANK, or you can call into the office on 240-778-6210 to enroll. Bear in mind, there is no cost to enroll. It's absolutely free. And you will have the opportunity to be able to view the donors for information, as well as select a donor when you find a good match for you.
And when you enroll, you'll tell us which fertility practice you're with, and we'll send you the pricing for that fertility practice, so you'll know exactly what to expect for cost. So let's go ahead and take some questions. I would encourage you to utilize the chat portion of the webinar in order to put in your question, and we'll just start to work through them.
So I see the first question here. How can I choose a good donor? I'm looking for a specific race, Japanese donor. So thank you for that question. When you visit our website, you do have the opportunity to select your search by using filters. One of the filters that we have is the race, and you're able to be very specific in terms of what type of ethnicity or race you're looking for. So we do have a filter under the word Asian. If you choose that, you'll be able to see how many donors in our database fall within the specific race you're looking for.
I'd also encourage you to look at the mixed races. Sometimes we'll have a Japanese donor, but she might be a mix between a Caucasian father and a Japanese mother. She might be half Japanese. I can tell you that we had a 100% Japanese donor on the website on Monday. I'm not sure she's still there. The Asian donors go really quickly. And so when you contact us, let your case manager know that you're interested in an Asian donor, what type of Asian donor, because we can add you a little bit to our wish list to make sure that when they become available, you get a first opportunity at that donor. So I'm going to read the next one. A woman of 48 years, this is somebody that's 48 years with good health and physical state. Can she do in vitro fertilization with her partner? So if you're 48, yes, you can do IVF in general, but your likelihood with your own eggs of being successful is very, very small. And you're going to go to great extent. And by the time you might even, if you're lucky enough to get pregnant, you're definitely going to be probably 50. So I would encourage you to do donor egg IVF with your partner. If you're 48, you can definitely carry a baby. Your physician will be able to evaluate your uterus, make sure everything is good and intact. But it's not a matter if you've gone through menopause. Utilizing medication that can actually bring you out of menopause, and you can carry a baby.
So our next question is asking, how many egg lots / donors do you get in a year? I've been reviewing donors for a year now, and I've noticed that there was not a lot of new donors. So that is a very good question. We do update our donor database on a weekly basis, and we do add new donors to our database at least once a week, sometimes several times a week, depending on how how quickly we have approved and vetted donors. So I would encourage you to, even though you might not have seen a whole lot of donors in your recent searches, continue to look at our donor database. I recommend that you try to check by midweek, so Tuesday, Wednesday are good days to see what new donors we've added to our database.
So the next question said that during this webinar, there was a freeze in the feed coming through. So first of all, I apologize if you've had any technological difficulties in the process. But for those of you that may have, let me quickly explain the Assured Refunds program again, because it's coming up as a question. So it is a 100% money-back guarantee program that if you do not bring home a baby from the hospital, you will get 100% of your money back that you put into the plan. It offers up to 6 cycles of donor egg and all the frozen embryo transfers that are included. I should be really clear in saying it offers up to 6 cycles. It doesn't say that 6 cycles are actually guaranteed. What happens is we continue to look at every single cycle and we say, is it still a good risk for us to keep this individual in the plan? Yes, we have had people go through all 6 cycles. Most of the time, you will have a pregnancy by the time you've completed the 4th cycle. And then I should also say that if you are removed from the plan for any reason, we give you all your money back. And for those that are removed from the plan, the benefit that you've had is you've had 2 physicians, an independent physician reviewer, look at your case and your history. And they've made the determination that it's unlikely that we can get you pregnant with a baby. This will happen in less than 6% of the time will this actually happen. Because 92% of the people that stay in the plan, they're going to bring a baby home from the hospital.
So our next question is asking, what is the average cost of the Assured Refund plan? So just like Heidi had explained earlier, the cost of the Assured Refund program is specific and unique to each clinic, fertility clinic that's able to offer it. I can share with you that the cost typically ranges from about $36,000 and then could be as high as $52,000, but that is based on individual fertility clinics and what they have to take into consideration in order to be able to offer that plan to their patients.
So you need to contact us in order to get all that great information. So the next question is, so is the single cycle plan just 1 egg? With both the single cycle and the 100% assured refund plans, I'm still not sure what this price is based on. Okay, so let me cover the single cycle plan. So the single cycle plan is based on 1 egg lot. An egg lot will have anywhere between 5 and 8 eggs in it, and you're going to choose the donor. So you're going to choose a donor with the number of eggs that you are comfortable with. Nearly every donor has between 6 and 7 eggs. Finding an egg lot of 5 is very low, is very slim. And typically, the people that will choose that are somebody in the Assured Refund plan, when they know all the risk is on us, and that it's our job to help them bring home that baby. So the single cycle plan will include your eggs that you're going to need. It will include your baseline treatment of getting ready for that cycle, any monitoring that happens during that cycle, your ultrasounds, the egg warming itself, ICSI, which is putting the sperm into the egg, assisted hatching, and then the embryo culture, and ultimately the transfer. It does not include cryopreservation of any additional embryos that may be left over, if you're fortunate to have them, as well as it does not include the actual pregnancy test. The pregnancy test is usually covered under your insurance or your regular medical insurance plan.
So I see a question asking, how would one know if a donor has other egg lots available? That's a very good question, and you would need to call into the office to be able to know more about that particular donor. So if you call in, either myself or any of my colleagues will be able to share with you if that particular donor has any additional egg lots.
throughout the United States. We work with the leaders in the fertility world, and this is why we have the very best eggs available. We also work with 180 fertility practices at this point. California Cryobank, formerly Donor Egg Bank USA, was actually the very first egg bank to ship vitrified eggs from clinic to clinic in the United States successfully and have babies born from those vitrified eggs.
Guys, a question here. Is it possible to choose the sex of the embryos, as you guarantee only one blastocyst per 6 to 8 eggs? How do you recommend to proceed if you would like a boy, for example? So to answer that question, we do not allow pre-genetic definition.
Let me cover this one. This is a good one for me, actually. So in order to understand the sex of the embryo, you're going to have to use PGTA, is what they call it now. It's pre-genetic screening of that blastocyst. And you're welcome to do that with your fertility practice. We do not guarantee a euploid embryo in that process, nor do we guarantee you a girl or a boy. But you're welcome to do that with your fertility practice. Many times what will happen is couples will actually get more than one egg lot, and they'll choose 2 egg lots to up their chances of having multiple embryos available. And I will say, because you may not know it, but the sex of the baby is determined by the sperm. So the egg itself is not the culprit if you end up with all girls or you end up with all boys. And lastly, many of the assured refund programs at this point do allow PGT screening in them for euploid to determine that it is a chromosomally normal embryo, but we do not allow screening for sex selection.
If another woman from my area had used the same donor, would we be notified? So to answer this question, there's no way for us to be able to notify you if that donor has been selected by a client who happens to be in your area. So that you would not be notified that a client has selected a donor that you might also be interested in or have selected.
But I think the really great thing about it is the likelihood is so small. We are shipping eggs throughout the United States, Canada, and internationally. And the likelihood of a donor being selected in the same area, in the same neighborhood, is extremely, extremely slim.
When I purchase donor eggs from one donor, how many eggs do I get? So like we said earlier, all our donors have egg lots that will have anywhere from 5 to 8 eggs, typically more 6 to 8 eggs in their egg lots. And you will receive all the number of eggs in that egg lot. So if a donor has 6 eggs, all 6 eggs belongs to you. You get that.
Okay, so I'm sure somebody hasn't asked this question yet, but they will. Why do we do this range between 5 and 8 eggs? Why do we say 6 to 8 eggs, maybe an occasional 9? And it's because donors do not provide perfect groups of 6 mature eggs. So what we've done is we've utilized an algorithm. We do not want to incentivize any fertility practice or any of our embryologists to put an immature egg into a group of eggs in order to get the magic number of 6. So if the donor only achieves, 9 mature eggs, you're going to get all 9. If the donor achieves 12 eggs, there might be broken up into 2 groups of 6. But this is why it's a range, and every donor is going to be different on the website. So the next question is, how do you recruit donors, and do you pay them differently depending on their education, race, ethnicity, or other characteristics? And let me answer this one. What we've done is we've created a collaboration of fertility clinics around the United States. So we're screening donors in programs throughout the United States. All the donors are compensated for their time and inconvenience at the market rate for that fertility practice. So fertility practice in, let's say, Arizona is going to pay their donors less than perhaps a fertility practice that is located in New York City. But they're paid the same amount regardless of their education, their race, or any special characteristics. So the next question is, do you partner with any other egg banks? I am looking for an Egyptian donor, which is very hard to find. Do you want to answer that one, Lauren?
So yes, we do not partner with any other egg banks. We solely use our own donor database to allow our clients to secure a donor. We do typically get donors of Egyptian background. So the key here is to continue to visit our website, cryobankeggs.com, and visit it to see what donors we might have.
So the next question says, at what age are you allowed to do donor egg IVF? Is there an age limit? And the age limit depends on your fertility practice. So some fertility practices end the ability to utilize a donor egg as young as 48, and some go as high as 55. But that's a conversation with your doctor. And if you're having a difficult time finding a fertility practice that will take you at your age, definitely give us a call and ask us. We know some of the programs that will take women that are around age 50, 55. So some donors have supplemental fees. What are those?
I'll be very happy to share some information around that. So some of our donors were referred to us by some referring agencies, and there was a cost that was entailed in having these donors come to us. So the cost of the referral is split between California Cryobank Donor Egg Bank, which is us, and the client. So when a client sees a portion of that fee in the donor's profile, it will be a fee that's in addition to the cost of plan that will need to be paid in addition to the cost of the plan.
Okay, so I'm going to tackle this next question. This individual writes, I purchased 3 egg lots in the past year, and out of 20 eggs, only 2 were healthy to transfer. So I'm sure she means embryos. Only 2 embryos were healthy to transfer. It appears that one batch had poor survival, and the last one didn't make it. How many healthy embryos do you expect per egg lot? Most egg lots will achieve multiple embryos on day 3, and typically at least 1 to 4 embryos at a blastocyst stage. So this is a little unusual. I can't tell you if she didn't say which egg bank she utilized. It also doesn't tell us anything about the sperm quality. So I wanted to quickly just give you some information about the process. So we have completely vetted the program that frees eggs for us. We feel very confident with them. But we do have to remember this is human biology. Not every donor's eggs freeze perfectly, although the vast majority of them do. But what comes into play isn't just the egg freeze process, but now it becomes how good is your lab at warming those eggs? Have they been trained appropriately? Did they receive the eggs correctly? Meaning, did they take them out of the tank and wave them in the air? Because if they wave them in the air, you're going to have poor survival. And it has nothing to do with how good the eggs were, how good the donor was. You're going to have poor survival if those eggs have been compromised in the removal from the tank and putting them into your own tank. And then we have to talk a little bit about the process itself. Sperm has a big impact on an embryo. Typically, up to day 3, we can look at the potential of the egg. But beyond day 3 and into the blastocyst stage, we're also heavily dependent on the potential of that sperm. So I would say, if this is the case that ever happens with us, by all means, give us a call. We usually know it. Your fertility practice has already told us. But this is something that needs to be troubleshot so that it can get corrected. We want you to be successful. This is why we offer the Assured Refund program, because we know we can get you to that point of having a baby.
As part of the donor profile, are they tested for having sickle cell traits? So yes, I can share with you that the donors that have been approved to donate their eggs since 2017 were had their genetic testing through our expanded panel testing, which means that they were tested for at least 176 traits. Some of our donors actually went through a company that tested them up to 281 traits. So if the donor came on board after 2017, they would have been tested for the sickle cell traits.
Well, actually, let me just share that even prior to that, we were screening for sickle cell traits in accordance with ethnicity. So this would tell you that anyone that comes to us that is of an African American origin, all have had sickle cell screening. So you can feel confident in the donors that we have on the website that they've been screened for particularly these large, major traits. And some of the smaller what if you're already in the Assured Refund plan, which was originally the 80% refund? Is this now changed to 100%? So let me just clear up any concern anyone has. We offer a 100% money-back guarantee if you are unsuccessful in bringing home a baby. However, if at any point during this journey you decide to leave the plan, and we still think you're a good risk, we're still willing to do more cycles with you, but you've decided that maybe you've had enough, maybe your marriage is having some difficulties and you want to leave the program, we give you 80% of your money back. What does the donor have to do to prepare her body for treatment? Oh my gosh, the donor goes through a lot. She goes through months of screening prior, history and physical, risk questionnaires, infectious disease questionnaires. She goes through a pap smear. She meets with a psychologist. She has a social work visit to make sure that she's of good mind. We put her through a whole genetic review. She does genetic screening. And then we finally get to the point where she can start to do her injection training. She goes through all the tough work. As a recipient, if you've gone through IVF, it's simple as a recipient because the donor is doing the heavy lifting. So she will do the injections every evening. She will come in for monitoring in the morning up until the point where she does her trigger injection, and then she will come in and have her retrieval, and ultimately she'll go through her recovery. So the next question is a fresh egg better than a frozen egg for success rate? And I can tell you at this point, they're about the same. Frozen eggs are equivalent to a fresh egg when handled appropriately, frozen well, and warmed in a good clinic. Then how do you screen the egg donor? How do you know if what they say is true? Go ahead, Maureen.
So with the donors, they are screened and they donate eggs through FDA eligible clinics. So the information that they provided to these clinics are verified and vetted. So we know that they have been validated and verified when they are able to move forward in the program.
So the next question asks about insurance coverage, and if you have insurance coverage, how does that work with the single cycle or the Assured Refund program? Typically, the single cycle and Assured Refund program are for individuals that do not have insurance coverage for treatment, for the treatment itself. Many people actually have it for just diagnostic care. And they will move forward with just the egg lot only plan if they want to utilize their insurance coverage. But I want to also add that in Canada, some individuals get some government coverage. And we've created a couple unique models in how to work that in with both the single cycle and the Assured Refund program. And if you find yourself in a situation in which you have government funding from Canada, please call us and we'll walk you through those steps.
Is there anything in the genetic screening of donors that we should look out for and should consider not using that donor? Same question for family history. So when it comes to the donor's genetics traits and the medical concerns that you may have as a client, we do strongly recommend that you defer back to your physician. We are not a medical facility, we're more administrative, and therefore we err on the side of your physician and your clinic for them to know medically what will be best for you.
Okay, so the next question is, how would you determine and keep the child from growing up and marrying a sibling that they won't know about due to the egg donor? What are the chances of that happening from marrying a relative? So egg donation is very different from any other type of donation, such as sperm donation. And what has happened in both egg and sperm donations is that there are guidelines, and we work with California Cryobank. We have an awesome sperm bank. If you need a sperm donor, you should look at the sperm donors as well. And we adhere by those guidelines. We limit the number of families that are able to utilize both a sperm donor and an egg donor. But even from an egg donor perspective, it's even smaller. You know, donors only go through so many cycles. And on top of that, they don't produce that many eggs. And if we go even one step further, it is only a 50% live birth rate. So the likelihood of choosing someone from the same egg donor is very, very itty-bitty. I encourage you, if you haven't already thought about it, to tell your children that they are through an egg donor, because as genetics have progressed, it's becoming increasingly common that individuals are learning this on their own accord. And if you're open about it, then if your son or daughter is hoping to get married, maybe you want to get them a genetic screening test for Christmas or for one of the holidays, and then you'll know for certain that they're not genetically related. But trust me, this is really a very small, minuscule opportunity, and you're probably better off playing the lottery and winning than this happening.
Are any donors open to the child reaching out, not to form a relationship, but maybe to ask questions? That's a very good question. All our donors have chosen to remain anonymous, but some of our donors are open for future contact. This contact will need to be initiated by the conceived child when they become of legal age, and it will have to be done through a third-party intermediary. But it is possible.
So what will the cost for shipping eggs to Canada in addition to the $14,500 for the 6 to 8 eggs? The cost for shipping is $500 for shipping the eggs. It does cover the cost of the shipping itself, the tank, the processing, shipping and handling. And in Canada, there's an additional $275 that's charged. That $275 is really got nothing to do with the shipping. It's charged at the border by customs, and it's also part of the GST tax that is charged.
I understand your question about non-gender selection. Thank you. Does that mean that if we get several embryos in order to have several children one by one, couldn't you send us the frozen embryos of a specific gender for the first one and keep the other embryos at your bank for the second child?
So I'm not quite sure what the question is, so we would encourage you to reply again, maybe a little more clearly, but it made me ask if we're willing to store embryos. And yes, we are willing to store. We have a great cryobank in Los Angeles as part of California Cryobank. We do storage all the time, and we can do long-term storage for you. Again, let us know. We'll get you in touch with the right people as to what those costs are. If the donor is a genetic carrier, at what point in the process would we get my husband tested? You would want to test your husband as soon as you know which donor you choose. In fact, many times it's great to just be tested before you even get started. Then you know which donors are available to you, and it will save you some time. But if your husband turns out to be the same genetic carrier as the donor, this is not a good match for you. We would ask you to find a different donor that was a more suitable donor. Oh, maybe I should answer this next question.
Okay.
The question is, how does one explain to your child that they were conceived via an egg donor? Well, I've actually had to do this. So start young. I've been talking to my children about donor egg from the very beginning. What I've explained to my kids is that Mommy and Daddy had a hard time getting pregnant. And so we had to actually get another lady to help us. And she gave us this phenomenal gift of this little itty-bitty egg. And Mommy used that itty-bitty egg in order to make her baby. And that the baby, that egg, and that was put into Mommy's tummy. And then I ended up having my beautiful children. So I talked to them very simplistically about it. Around the 5th grade is when they start to get a little sex education conversation. And at that point, my conversation with my children will change.
Until what age can you do an in vitro fertilization to the woman with donor egg? I am 49 years old. We want to have a baby. My partner has never had children. I have 3, but I'm worried about my age to do an in vitro fertilization with donor egg. This is a very good question. And again, this will depend on your fertility clinic. So we do not have a cap on ages with regards to you being able to use or participate in any of our financial plans. But your fertility clinic will be the best place or source to know what the cap is when it comes to your age.
Let me also just add, because I think that sometimes women get this a little confused. You may be 49, but the egg is 2 or 33. Anyone that's between the ages of 21 and 28 can be a first-time donor. Anyone over that, they have to have already been a donor, and they've had to proven to us that they are fertile and they have good fertility. So your age really doesn't come into play. It only comes into play and if your fertility clinic will treat you. But your likelihood of success is exactly the same as a woman that's going through the same treatment process in her 30s. And then the question is what age did you start the conversation that my children were from donor egg? Probably I really started it around age 3 or 4, and I only brought it up a couple times. Now that my children are 8, about a year ago, I actually gave them a book on donor egg, and I've talked to them a little bit about it. Of course, you know, I am in a unique position in which I work in the donor egg field, so they hear a lot about donor egg just in our house. But they've been reading the books that I've given them, and there's some really great books out there, and it's been really helpful to them understanding the process and how they were conceived. So that was our very last question. Oh, I see a few more coming in, but we're going to go ahead and hold it for now. We've kept you for an hour. We want you to be able to get back to your day. Feel free to give us a call or contact us via the website. We're happy to answer any more questions individually. We encourage you to register to see the donors. Call us to enroll, and we'll have the ability to select a donor anytime in the day or night. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Bye now.
Bye.